with anything, things are going to happen like this. This is not the first or the last burden the world has seen. And just, remember that every burden is a blessing as long as you have your health. Good things will come out of it. I've had difficult years in the past, and watch out for those leap years. Like 2016 and 2020 have not been good. But what I've learned so far is that when you're struggling and you're concerned about your well-being or whatever might be happening in your life, remember that something good will come out of it. We're gonna come out better people.
Welcome back to Got a Map, where we talk all things career, learning from some of the best and brightest around the country. Today we have a good friend of mine, and we are on episode 7. I think we're cruising by these episodes in these last few weeks, so excited about that. But before we get started, I want to introduce my co-host, Connor Chang. Connor, say what's up to the people.
On everyone. I'm an intern at DIM Events, marketing intern. I'm currently a marketing major at Fordham University. So I've been doing it virtually, but it's been a good time and definitely getting some good experience.
Good. And what are you currently listening to? Maybe it's like a band, a specific artist. Like, what are you listening to?
Well, I guess I have to shout out the Activist. He just dropped an album pretty recently, and it's his first big album, I'd say, on all platforms besides SoundCloud. So I've definitely been listening to that a ton, so I can give that some credit here.
Say it one more time. I missed that.
The Activist.
The Activist.
Yeah. So he started as a SoundCloud rapper for a few years, between 2010 and up, but he's really starting to grow into something bigger as recently. So it's pretty interesting to see.
Very dope. You all listen to very different music, so I'm always trying to figure out what's going on here. Keep my ear to the streets. I want to introduce our guest, the person that we will be taking directions from today. My favorite sound effect, skr. Greg Birman, a good friend of mine. Greg, say what's up? How's it going?
What's up? I'm Greg Birman. Thank you guys so much for having me. This is dope. I am, if you guys want to know what I'm listening to, it's not very exciting. I've just had lo-fi beats on Spotify just to get me in the zone. It just gets me zoned in, whether I'm working or cooking or even reading. So there's a lot of noise in the world right now. So for me, just hearing the beats keeps it chill.
That's very.
I like that because I usually listen to classical music when I try to get into the zone, but I didn't even think of just listening to beats like that.
Just lo-fi, yeah. The instrumentals, that's all I need.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about what you do. You're a man of many talents, so tell us a little bit, give us a glimpse into what do you do?
Yeah, so professionally, I'm a marketing director at a company called Spins here in Chicago. What that means to me is that I'm helping to build a healthier world. My company provides retail data to consumer brands that are creating natural, organic, or plant-based products. So I do the marketing. I'm helping our team get the data into the hands of the brand so they can get on those shelves and get into the people's hands.
That's very fascinating. I think data is always so interesting, where I remember a quote from Steve Stoute, who's in the music industry, and he said, just by looking at the data from when Eminem became a rapper, he predicted the win of Trump because there were so many activated people who were listening to Eminem's music all around pockets of the country that they weren't really looking at in the music. So I always say data is very fascinating. And then when you get to like music tour routes and all of that stuff, all that information from Spotify and all of that, like planning out tours more efficiently rather than just going to the big name venues is very, very fascinating.
Yeah. Data always has a better idea.
Definitely. And the way that I like to just get right into it is, what would you say is your impact on the world, whether that's professionally or personally? What does that look like?
Yeah, professionally, I feel like I have I have a strong purpose in creating a healthier world. Personally, it's a little more complicated these days, right? The world is a different place, and I'm someone, if you look me up, you'll see that I've built my career and my life on creative expression. I'm someone who's made statements with my words, my photography, my appearance. But I think right now, I feel like my role in the world is to let the world express itself, and for me to be there to absorb and to listen and to learn and pass on those learnings, to the people in my life. So, it doesn't have to be crazy what I do. For me, it's just keeping an open mind and making sure I'm staying informed and compassionate and considerate. And that's the most I can do right now.
Very, very respectable. And you're currently in a role where, you can exercise your creative freedom, but also, you have a very strong purpose, and you have very strong purpose for the world as well. Dealing with all things, you're in a position right now where I would actually love to be in someday, as a marketing director, overseeing all things such. And I honestly just want to ask, taking back, because I know you're talking about your impact and what you're currently doing right now, but back in the college days or even high school, if you're in my feet, what kind of led you towards that path, towards marketing, and what kind of things did you do to sort of get on the right path for that?
Yeah. There's no short answer for this question. So I could take you guys way back. My path after high school is one you would refer to as non-linear. Through college, I lived at home. I changed my major and my minor halfway through. I graduated kind of in the vortex of the recession. And luckily I had a job secured thanks to an internship at the time. And, I'm so glad that I picked up on the advice of getting an internship in my senior year. And so I ended up, because of the recession and because of the difficulty that I had finding a job at the time back in 2008, which makes me really old. I was lucky to have this internship secured that turned into a job, even though it was underpaying. But it had me doing market research for the Italian government. Actually, it was really unique. So I got into market research. I got a lot of exposure to the way other people think, and other cultures think, and I got addicted to espresso. So, so a lot of things happened for me in that role. But from there, I finally got into the tech world, and also working for a data technology company in the location services business. I came in for business development, but then after about a year, I ended up spending 4 of my years there doing business operations. So really my educational background is in economics. I did some market research, and it was like related to politics, but I didn't really go the marketing route, even though I had all this creativity in me. And part of it is because I just didn't have enough information about what I can do in a creative career. And also because, it was just difficult to find the job you want.
Definitely. And I always talk about how important internships are, but what would you say are some of the Like, what was that your first internship, or was that like one of many?
It was the most significant one, but I had another one. So while I was in that internship, I got another one offered. So I took a hiatus, went on to try out another company, another internship, and ended up coming back to this role. Just because I just didn't feel like there was a fit. It was like a very corporate insurance world where I just didn't think I would thrive. So I took a risk and went back. And then the recession hit, and then I couldn't really get out when I wanted to. But you're still such a kid in college. Like looking back, I knew nothing about anything. So that internship is what really solidified me, which really helped me solidify as an adult and just be around adults. So I think that's where the importance of it comes in. It's like an extended education, really.
Perfect. So
Yeah.
talking about internships, since I'm in one myself, and I'm looking to take that next step, what did you take away from your internship that sort of prepared you or geared you to actually step into the corporate world? So what kind of things did you go through, or did you have to learn in order for you to become who you are now?
Yeah. It's not dissimilar from what you're going to learn throughout the rest of your career, because really what you're showing to your next employer is that you can meet deadlines, you can roll up your sleeves, you can think, you can think creatively and critically. And now I think of it, having been through kind of the agency world and the creative world, I think of it as a portfolio rather than a resume. So what you're putting together is a body of work. And when you're in your job or whatever it is you may be doing, just think about, what does this look like, when I frame it? Like, what does this look like as a portfolio piece? What should I do differently to make it look like something I want to present to my next employer, or, to anyone for that matter?
That's very interesting. I don't think many of us think about it like that, right? We think of obviously a resume and all of that, but like a portfolio piece is interesting because I feel like even as a college student, as like a job on campus, right? You could really utilize that to get to your next experience and show like, hey, this is what I've created, or this is what I've done. That's
Yeah.
like college is, I don't know if in the bigger picture, right, if college is essential these days, right? But I do think you learn a lot in that space, and your ability to show that you can create work and build a network is very important.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's easy to be very narrow-minded and short-sighted with that, because you can look at it as like bullet points you eventually put together, or you can look at it as like a narrative that you're creating. So, I think the advice I would give my younger self is not to be so short-sighted. You see, like, it's easy when you're young to see that shiny thing in front of you and just chase that around. But if you zoom out for a second and you take kind of a bird's eye level view, that bigger thing, it's also in front of you. You just have to zoom out. It's just it's a bigger, more shinier thing. And if you just take a step back and look at it from like a wider lens, you'll see it and you know what you're pursuing.
Definitely.
Yeah, it's not hiding anyway.
Right. One thing I do think is interesting, and I don't think we've ever gotten anyone's perspective on this, but with the recession, right, and now, how much are you seeing when it comes to like similarities of that time? Obviously, it wasn't a pandemic, but in some way, it is a financial pandemic for a lot of people, right? So, what similarities do you see with the recession when you kind of graduated to now during COVID?
That's a good question. I think for different industries, it's going to be different. I think if you're a creative, you have both an advantage and disadvantage, because a lot of budgets are being slashed for creative services and marketing, right? But again, it depends on the industry. Some industries are thriving because you have healthcare, and you have the food industry, which is where I'm at. Like some industries are in greater demand, and they still have budgets to do something. So the disadvantage is, like, if your skills aren't very transferable from industry to industry, if you're just kind of like someone who specializes in one thing, it might be difficult. But for creatives specifically, you have so much tools at your disposal, and you have so many different ways to show your work, to offer value, to advertise yourself. I think while there are similarities, I think there are more differences, and that the main difference is we have so much more resources at our fingertips to be able to market yourself.
Cool. So since we've already delved into the topic of, what you've been doing, how you've gotten there, and where you're currently at right now, I sort of want to talk about something pretty important in our everyday lives, and especially right now, which is self-care. So you mentioned earlier that, the job that you had before your current position was very corporate, and you didn't think that you could thrive as much as you could have. And I know a lot of that stems from pressure, because there's a lot of deadlines you have to meet, a lot of different people that you have to tend to, and it's just a very stressful, corporate America is very stressful. So what are some things that you do personally to sort of deal with those stresses in everyday life?
Yeah. I mean, look, as you grow in your career, those things are going to be more and more real. Whether you're corporate or agency, or if you're growing your own business, those things are always going to creep up on you the more senior you get. So corporate or not, you got to take care of yourself. You just gotta, like, look around you. Like, people are dying, and they can't do anything about it. So it's a good reminder today is, like, your health is most important. Jobs come and go. If you're talented and you got friends like Mo, you'll be good. So really just taking care of your health. If you're feeling stressed out, think about the long-term effects. For me, it's as simple as just like going for a walk, going for a bike ride, listening to music, picking up a camera and snapping some photos, even if it's for 10, 15 minutes. And if you think about it, those things that I just named, to me, those are the things that remind me of childhood, and that bring me back to my younger self, and make me, make you feel like a kid again. So you find those things, whatever those are. You don't have to invent anything new. Maybe you like drawing when you were a kid. Just try to do something that you used to like doing as a kid. And that's an easy way to look at it.
That's very nice. I find myself doing a lot of similar things when I feel stressed, and I think it's a pretty human thing to do, to want to kind of escape your current situation that's very stressful, and sort of just take a breath or something. So that's nice. So we talked about what you do to handle stress during your day, but in terms of your responsibilities or your daily agenda, what does your kind of day-to-day look like besides some of the things that bring you joy? And, other things that bring you joy as well, but what are some of those activities or some of those agenda items that you have to tend to?
My day, like any typical work day.
Yeah, and Monday through Friday.
Yeah, it's quite different these days, right? Spending a lot of time at home, trying to have some kind of routine, in the morning, wake up, have the French press brewed up, hang out in the balcony for 30 minutes, catch up with my wife, and then, get to work. And like in the morning, I like to do something creative. Like I can't get into like too many analytical things in the morning. I got to do something creative to just kind of get the neurons flowing, connecting, whether it's writing something or proofreading something or designing something. Even if it's building a PowerPoint, I got to do something creative in the morning. And then as the day goes on, I can get more strategic and more analytical throughout the day.
One question that I want to ask, because I feel like a lot, but now we have the ability to be a little more creative because we don't have like that hour commute or that 20 or 30
Yep.
minutes. But pre-COVID, were you able to do that same type of work style, or is this something newer that you've incorporated into your workflow?
It was similar for me before. Yeah. I got to kind of take my time in the morning. Even if I wake up early, I just gotta like have my walk, have my coffee, do something creative. It was kind of similar for me, but yeah, you're right. We're saving more time with the commute. So, it should be easier to practice self-care, but I find myself more accessible because I'm online more. So I'm actually like more productive, busier with work. And if it's a job that you enjoy, then why not? Like, I don't complain. It's a lot of screen time, but when quarantine started, the advice I always gave is, like, make sure to stretch, like take time to stretch, get in touch with yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
What would you say, because we were talking about this a little bit before, but what are some things that you miss about being able to go into the office?
Some, but not many. I just like being able to, I work in a kind of a big team environment. So getting to know what others are working on is important. And just like that day-to-day side banter in passing is always like helpful to build relationships. And, people are just busier now. And that FaceTime, like on the screen, it's cool, but you just don't have as much of a personal connection as you used to.
Yeah. I feel like it's been very interesting, right? Because I feel like networking is such a part of like work and just lifestyle in general, right? And like even me and you, I'm sure we used to pass by one another,
right,
and see each other here and there. And now it's like you have to be so much more intentional. But let's take it back to pre-COVID, right? How important was networking in the growth of your career path?
It was huge, honestly. Like you said, it's part of our nature to network and to be curious about what others are doing, especially in your field. Yeah, it was huge. And I was always like, I think for me, my creative world opened up through networking. That's when I was like, oh, like there's a new shop opening up. I gotta go check it out. I gotta go mingle, because I wanted to be part of the vibe. Cultural events, like that's why we live in the city, because we need to be closer to culture. And that's different now. Like culture's canceled in 2020. So, like I gotta access it from home somehow, and find other ways to experience culture. But yeah, before COVID, networking, a lot of very coincidental, serendipitous opportunities came my way just from talking to people, and connecting with them. That's how I grew my Instagram. That's how I was able to grow my blog, is just like putting myself in those situations where I can document something or I can collaborate with someone. So yeah. I mean, for you, like you're in a space and in a career where it's so essential, like you got to be feeling that too.
Yeah, I feel like right now it's been very interesting, right? I think there's two folds to it, right? For me, I think networking is in some shape or form, it's just transformed for me, right? So like a lot of it is like the podcast, right? Doing this and chatting
Right.
and like getting to know them on a more personal level. But I think it's good for like some of the events that we do, right? Because now you're able to tap into people in different spaces. So for me, I look at this time as like a preparation time, right? Where you're able to bring people from
Mm-hmm.
areas and bring them into one space per month,
Yep.
on a monthly basis, rather than like before it was just like, all right, when I go to New York, I'll hang out with this person or see them, or when I go to LA, I'll see this person, and
Yep.
whatever the schedule looked like, that's how it worked. But yeah, I think it's a little bit easier now, which is interesting. I still think it's tough because like you're not gonna see those people on a day-to-day basis when you're walking around or bumping into it. But I think you just have to be more intentional and purposeful. Yep. You definitely have to come with something to talk about, right? You can't just like someone up and say, let's just jump on the Zoom and then let's just look at each other, right? It has to be something to talk about, or maybe it's a catch up, or maybe it's just growing the relationship.
So, being able to go to all those places is very, right now, it's a very good privilege to have. I look back at the time I had before quarantine, and I thought, wow, I should have gone there, should have gone here. So, while we're talking about networking, how should I approach this in the social distance world? Because I'm so far away from all my classmates. I can't go in every day to an office and have an actual internship like that. And all the events that are in person have been canceled as well. So how would you sort of navigate if you were in my shoes?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's a good point, but I think Mo just touched on it. Like, you're able to build almost stronger relationships by preparing for these more intentional conversations, like for networking professionally and for informational interviews, and like setting up informational interviews with other like professionals. So one way is being on a podcast asking these questions, but also getting on LinkedIn and just explaining what you just said to me. Like, hey, I'm looking to grow. It's difficult these days. I'm sure you understand, but I'd love to learn about how you've made it to where you are in your career. And I'd love to grab like a virtual coffee with you for 15 minutes. So it is challenging, but you can build some valuable relationships out of it as well.
I think that's really good advice, right? LinkedIn is huge. I feel like you know a lot about LinkedIn, maybe. I don't know too much about LinkedIn. I do a lot of my networking on Instagram, and I think you do that as well, because Greg has a strong Instagram following. We're gonna put it right to see it. But what would you say are some of the keys to success for networking via LinkedIn? Because I think like that's something that I actually personally have a question on too.
Yeah.
I help Connor and other people listening to this.
Yeah, I mean it's similar, right? Like if it's someone that you, it's just a little more transparent about what they do and where they're at in their career and their background. So you just have a little more information in front of you when you're looking at people. And I mean, it's similar with Instagram. You're sliding in, you're leaving a comment, but the narrative can be similar, right? Like I love the progression that I'm seeing with your career. I'd love to learn more. With Instagram, it's similar. Like I love the vibe. I love your work. Like let's connect. So slightly different profiles depending on what you're pursuing or who you're pursuing. And most of the time people are willing to, if they check their LinkedIn. I'm bad at checking my messages because you do get some spam in there, but I'll usually say, yes, let's chat. And yeah, it's not too different. I would say upgrade your LinkedIn. because there's like a limit on the amount of messages you can send, but that $30 a month, if you can swing it or like do the free trial, you can send a bunch of messages.
Yeah. What would you say are some, I would say, no-nos on LinkedIn messaging or reaching out to people? Anything you've heard of as like things that you shouldn't do, or experiences maybe that you've had?
I mean, your tone is going to be a little different than IG, for example. Like you can be a little more casual with IG. Whereas LinkedIn, I feel like if you're going to reach out to someone's like professional profile, you want to be a little more professional and have like a salutation and like a signature. And, it also depends on their seniority level. So if you're looking to connect with someone high up, you want to be somewhat professional and not as casual as you would be on other networks, and try to, you just got to know your audience, right? Like on IG, you're going to have a much more creative profile photo, for example, and LinkedIn, you can still, even if you're in a creative career, you could still have a professional photo that says you're in a creative career. So just those nuances. As with anything, you just got to know your audience.
That's smart.
Yeah.
No, that's good advice. Good advice. And I feel like update your bio, because like that's one thing. I think I still have my bio from college, and I need to definitely update that.
Yeah, they make it easy now.
Yeah. Somebody told me like, hey, you should probably update your bio. I said, oh,
yeah.
I don't even have a bio, so you're in a better place than I am right now. I gotta go after that.
You can get there. We can get there. Maybe that'll be our next workshop, LinkedIn bios.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
That's your homework now.
Right, we got homework now from Greg. Look at that. That's here. Let's talk a little bit about any creative projects that you're currently working on that are very inspirational to you, or something that's just of interest to you right now.
I used to have more side projects than I do now. I would have projects where I would like create content for brands. Now, if I have any creative projects, like any free time goes to like creating websites or like brand identity for smaller businesses. Maybe it's a friend of a friend or something. I've also like given the environment now, maybe I should be more vocal about it, but I did kind of open my schedule up to any nonprofits here in Chicago, just to grab time on my schedule to talk through any digital marketing questions they might have, or recommendations. So I'm calling it open office hours, but open to any Chicago nonprofits. So I've done a little bit of that in June. And yeah, I'm still open to doing that. And yeah, other than that, just again, like reminding myself to channel my younger self and do the things that I, truly make me happy. Taking some photos, riding a bike, shooting a hoop.
Love that. That.
Were there any projects that sort of made you fall in love with the whole process of it, or are there any sort of, is there a specific type of project or system that you love doing? So like if a company comes to you and says, we need this, and this from you, what's like your preferred go-to?
Yeah, that's such a good question. A process that made me fall in love with the creative work, that's evolving. The more I learn, the more that it evolves. Like, and it depends what it is. Like when I shot, when I did more product photography or content direction, it had its own process. With any website work, like someone came to me recently asking for a website and asking for a price range. I'm like, all right, well, it really depends what you're looking for, because I can just like, we could talk for 30 minutes and I could put you on a template and, walk you through it. Or we could spend a good month going through your content strategy and your brand identity and your, like your information architecture and actually like custom design and things like that, and the copywriting and everything. So everything has a process. We're not doing anything new, like most creatives, like there are some really brilliant minds who are really paving the path, but most of us in marketing and photography, we're not doing anything new. We just have to learn the ropes and just do a really good job. We're not reinventing the wheel here.
And before we let you go, I know you are an NBA guy, right? And we just had someone on our last episode from the Phoenix Suns, and we were talking about the bubble and all of that stuff. So who do you have this year winning it all?
Man, putting me on the spot.
And put you on the spot.
I mean, look, I want to see the Lakers win it for Kobe. I got other teams I like, obviously, but I think given everything that's happened this year, that would be just a good story, and I'm all about good stories. Like we need a good story here.
That's true.
But hopefully everyone just stays healthy. I'm curious to see what it's like without the fans and like the interaction that they're creating with fans remotely. Like that's going to be crazy.
Yeah, I feel like the NBA is the only sports league that's got it right, because I see baseball. I heard they have to like cancel some games because people have had COVID, and I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. Like baseball is a larger team, so I completely understand that. Yeah, seems like the NBA's done it again. They're always ahead of the curve, I would say.
Right.
It's over. Always the
we need one for Kobe, and it's in Orlando where he won one of his championships. So
that is true. I did not even think about that. Connor, who do you have?
Well, obviously the Lakers. If it's who do I have, it's the Lakers for sure. Like I think the Lakers are gonna win. Even with Avery Bradley not playing, I think JR and Deion Waiters has been popping off in the scrimmages. I'll tell you that right now. So keep an eye on him. But yeah, it's the Lakers for that. But if you ask me who I want, it's the Bucks. I want Giannis coming out on top, and I want the Eastern Conference to have some swing back in it. So yeah, it's the Bucks for who I want.
Mo, who do you got?
I ride with LeBron. Businessman, great basketball player, great just a great person overall. So I'm always, wherever LeBron is at, ever since KD has let me down, I'm always riding with LeBron. So
okay.
I think LeBron is going to be the only athlete. If he can win it on this team, then he'll be the only athlete to win it on 3 different teams, I think. Or maybe 4. I think he's tied with like Robert Ory or someone, or like someone up there. Someone who like wasn't like a great player, but was like a really good player. So that'll be interesting. Because I think Robert Ory won it with the Lakers, Houston Rockets, and the Spurs, I think.
Yeah, and you got Steve Kerr too with for the Bulls.
I think
Spurs, and then as a coach. Never mind. So as a player, I'm like,
yeah. So it'll be
he'll be one of only 2 people to win. Yeah, he'll be up there with LeBron. Just 3 different teams, 3 championships.
Yeah. I feel like there was 4. I feel like I'm missing somebody. I saw it on the stat, but I don't really remember. LeBron all day. That's all I gotta say. LeBron, I'm riding with you. Let's get.
He's the big. Yeah, he's the baddest man out there.
He is. I like the Clippers. I think what they'll do will be good. It'll definitely, whoever wins the Western Conference Finals is going to be the team that wins it all. Because unfortunately, Connor, the Bucks just don't they don't have it all, right? Giannis is good, but like what happened to him last year just showed he's not ready to take that step. He's at like remember when KD lost against the Miami Heat and he was crying? That's where he is right now. He's going to cry if he makes it to this. And then he's going to get over that cry and accomplish after LeBron exits.
I think his teammates also need to take a step. And I think even more so because I think all the pressure of him putting literally rebounding, defending at the rim, scoring, putting all that on his back, I think his teammates need to take a step or two up. You know, Chris Middleton is an all-star level player, but
he is, but he's not a number 2.
That's what I'm saying. I think he's more of a 2A, 2B type player.
Yeah,
We'll see how he plays because I'm never gonna doubt him. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. Well, before we let you go, Greg, any last words of advice? I think one thing this is actually, yes, I remember the question I had.
Yep.
Remembering how everything started to open during the recession, right? At that time when things were like, okay, we can kind of like open business back up, right? What advice would you have for someone who's very discouraged during this time? Maybe they lost their internship during this summer. Maybe they lost their job opportunity. What advice would you give them as the world starts to open up, maybe in 2021, right? What advice?
Just with anything, things are going to happen like this. This is not the first or the last burden the world has seen, and just remember that every burden is a blessing as long as you have your health. Good things will come out of it. Like I've had difficult years in the past, and watch out for those leap years. Like 2016 and 2020 have not been good, but what I've learned so far is that something good comes out of it. It leads me to a better situation. You discover something about yourself or about others that is going to have an impact on you for the rest of your life. So you might not see that, when you're struggling and, you're concerned about your well-being or whatever might be happening in your life. But eventually, like, that learning will get you to a better place. So, again, just remember that something good will come out of it. We're gonna come out better people.
It's true.
Yeah.
Great words from a great guy, Greg. The way we like to end things in our internship, we always give someone a round of applause virtually. So
thank you guys. Yeah, I appreciate you having me on.
Of course.
Thanks for stopping by. Great words of advice.
Yeah, good meeting you, Connor. Good luck. You have my email if you have any other questions, and Mo, always great chopping it up, man. Anytime.
Always. Right. We were supposed to do this right before COVID happened.
Right.
So
exactly.
You gotta get that back in the books once everything opens.
Oh yeah.
All right.
All right, man. It was a pleasure. Thank you, guys.
Thank you all for tuning in to Get a Map. Skirt. Peace.